summoned a Polish envoy to express its displeasure at the bill, which calls for prison time for referring to Polish death camps. This is SRN News. President Trump's first State of the Union speech is a big event in Washington, but tickets were delayed by a typo.
The ticket reads, address to the Congress on the State of the Union. Union, an M instead of the second N. Lawmakers had fun with the glitch. Florida Senator Marco Rubio tweeted out a picture of the ticket while repeating the mistake. Arizona Republican Congressman Raul Grijalva took a jab at the administration and President Trump's education secretary. Grijalva wrote, looks like Betsy DeVos was in charge of spell checking. The mistake didn't come from the White House. The House Sergeant at Arms is responsible for printing, distributing, and now reprinting the tickets. Jackie Quinn, Washington.
Japanese automaker Honda says another person has died in Malaysia after a flawed Takata airbag inflator blew up. That raises the number of deaths in the country to 6. More details at srnnews.com.
Here's a special program note for viewers of WCKV-TV. As you may have heard, WCKV-TV, Clarksville's only broadcast TV station, has moved to Charter Channel 6. They're also looking into opportunities to do more local programming to serve you better, so please stay tuned to WCKV Charter Channel 6 for some changes. WCKV-TV will continue airing on CDE Lightband Channel 12 and over-the-air Channel 21.1. Channel 21 is a free service. WCKV-TV, engaging, inspiring, and uniting all of Montgomery County and beyond. Unique by design. WCKV-TV, Clarksville.
The big 1400 WVWB Clarksville area weather, clouds giving way to some sunshine today, but it's still going to be chilly. Do not be deceived by the sunshine. And we expect a high today of around 40 degrees, 28 for an overnight low. Wednesday will warm up nicely to around 56 degrees, overnight low around 55. Rain in the forecast for Thursday as temperatures begin to drop, 51 for a high on Thursday. And then Friday, plenty of sunshine, but cold. We expect a high of around 35 degrees on Friday. Currently, we're at 26 degrees in downtown Clarksville. With a look at traffic, here's John Michaels.
Good morning. Traffic around the city and the county very busy in several areas this morning. 41A Fort Campbell slow, especially out on the north side. The 101st Parkway very slow in a couple of spots. Trenton Road, Tylertown Road, both very busy at the moment. 79 out in St. Bethlehem, pretty good except out by the interstate. Looks like Rossview Road, very busy, especially out by the interstate. Warfield Boulevard, busy in a couple of spots. 41A out in Singo, not bad. Madison Street, very busy. And if you're coming into the city from the county on 48 and 13, very busy out at Montgomery Central, and then again as you get closer into town down by Liberty Park. Now, if you are headed to Nashville this morning, 24 looks good all the way into the Music City. Let's check in with Commander Chuck and see what's going on with the Nashville area traffic.
Well, good morning. They moved that wreck there on 40 eastbound at 440 on the west side, but it is so heavy trying to get in through there right now. Watch for a wreck in the 200 block at Long Hollow Pike. Also, a crash being cleared from earlier on 24 eastbound up around the 36-mile marker, bumper to bumper here on 65 south at Trinity Lane. If you're looking for the best bargains, then look no more. Check out GimmeA5.com. They're in Clarksville, Lebanon, Dixon, Madison, with more locations on the way. Check it out. It's GimmeA5.com. I'm Commander Chuck. You're on time traffic.
It's been a look at your traffic and weather together and the latest national news this morning on 1400 WVWB. It is Tuesday. It is 8:10, and this is Good Morning Clarksville. Good morning, Chuck Edwards.
Good morning.
Once again.
Good morning, John Michaels. It is hour number 2 as we get started on Good Morning Clarksville. It's Tuesday with the mayor, so County Mayor Jim Durrett's going to join us this hour, and we'll talk about everything you ever want to know about the county government. I'm sure Mayor Durrett has a lot on his mind that he wants to share with our listeners. The big 1400 as we roll along on this Tuesday. 30th day. We got one more day left in January, you know?
One more.
One more, and then we'll be into February.
Count it done.
Count it done. And Groundhog Day. You know, we'll see if Punxsutawney Phil sees his shadow.
what to say. Now I found out today that all the words had slipped away. But I know there's always a chance, a tiny spark will remain, yeah. And sparks turn into flames, and love can burn once again. But I know you know, whenever you call me, I'll be there. Whenever you want me, I'll be there. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. I'll be around. Yeah. Whenever you call me, I'll be there. Whenever you want me, I'll be there. Even if I have to fall, I'll be there. I'll be around. Just call me on the phone. I'll be there. I'll never leave you alone. I'll be there. Just call on the name. I know you know. I'll be around. I'll be skipping and hopping. I'll be there. I'll be a ripping and running. I'll be there. I'll be calling out your name to let you know. I'll be around.
The big 1400 WVWB. Let me get him plugged in. I'm trying to get him
You've
plugged
got him
in
hung
here
up on the
he
microphone
so he
up
can
there.
hear himself, because he likes to hear himself.
Y'all put earmuffs on me where I couldn't hear. Y'all was talking
Yeah,
about me.
yeah,
Hey,
it's
gone
like
fishing and
it's
hooked
like
the
you're in the
mic.
room off to the side in the green room getting ready. But County Mayor Jim
now.
Durrett joins us here on the big 1400. How you doing?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Good. You had a good. We missed you. It's been a couple of weeks since you were here.
Yeah.
Last anyway.
Yeah.
So it was funny. We were talking off before we got started about downtown and the Commons area and the ice skating rink, and you all decided to shut it down this month early.
Yeah. You know, our numbers weren't exactly where we wanted them to be, but you know, I can't say that we expected that, but if you look at the circumstances that surrounded it, number one, we opened, the venue itself was pretty tight, pretty crowded. You can only get really on one side and one end of the rink. And so that hurt logistically. And then we also, right before Christmas, we had 3 days of rain. And then right after Christmas, we had just that bitter cold weather. We had like 6 days of it. And people just aren't going to go out at night, you know, when it's 8-10 degrees. And
I'm not. And most people who got any sense aren't going to go out.
Yeah. So that made it tough. But, you know, I think next year when the entire park's open and there's other activities up there beside ice skating, that you can bring people to those activities, and then they're going to say, well, hey, while we're here, let's go skating. So, you know, I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And of course, downtown they're, you know, constantly adding things and opening restaurants and different things downtown.
Yeah, and you know, the Strawberry Alley Ale and Brew Works is looking to open sometime early spring.
In the spring.
Yeah, it's like 250-seat restaurant. It's a microbrewery. They're going to have a big banquet room, and they're also going to do a big family room upstairs. They're going to have decks off the back. So, you know, that's just exciting about what's going on downtown. You know, Chuck and John Michael, I say that I get criticized a lot. I can't say it's a lot because typically the naysayers are the vocal ones, but I have some people that says, well, you know, Durrett's only working on his pet projects downtown. Well, my response to those people, and they won't respond to me, is, well, is not downtown in the middle of Montgomery County? I mean, it's inside the city limits, but it's in Montgomery County, and you know, we talked about it at the Power Breakfast a couple of weeks ago. There's been over $14 million worth of real estate sales since we broke ground on the Commons. That tells me that our property values downtown are going up.
Yep.
When our values go up, our tax base goes up. So it's a win-win for everybody. And people say, well, you're only doing stuff downtown. Well, it's in the middle of Montgomery County. And my second response to that is, well, I guess the $4 million we're spending on the admin building for our EMS admin and training building, I guess that's not considered, even though it's serving all of Montgomery County, it's still inside the city limits. We're putting $7 million in our courts complex that serves all of Montgomery County. It's downtown, so we're investing in things all over Montgomery County, but Montgomery County includes the city of Clarksville.
It does. Where's the new EMS building going to be?
It's going out by Tenova. And that was a deal that our EMS director, Jimmy Edwards, came to us and said, and he's operating, their training room is smaller than this studio that we're in. Their training room is smaller than this studio, and I ain't dogging your studio, by the way.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not either.
Get on MP Media.
But so, and their admin offices, they've outgrown their admin offices. We need to spend some money on a roof. And we just said, well, let's look at doing something. We went to Tenova. They had a big vacant lot out there, and we went to Tenova and said, hey, we want to build this building, and we'd like to build it right here, and we don't want to pay for the property. They came back and said, well, no, I don't know, we can do that. And we said, no, we don't want to pay for it. They donated a $1 million piece of land to Montgomery County, and that saves taxpayers dollars. So, I mean, we're working hard every day to not only grow our tax base, but to save money any way that we can, too.
When is that? The building's supposed to be complete?
It'll be finished this fall.
Oh.
We broke ground on it, and it's, I think, October. October is timeline for it to be open.
So it'll be the training facility and as well as offices?
And a key part about that, every time one of our ambulances makes a run and drops somebody off at the ER, they have to go back and clean and restock that ambulance. We were actually doing that outside. So 2 weeks ago, when it was 5 degrees outside at night and they made a run, they'd go to one of their stations where we keep our meds. They'd clean the ambulance outside. They'd restock outside.
We're talking about outside in the weather, not outside the ambulance, outside in the elements.
And so now this new facility will have drive-in bays where our EMS folks can pull inside. They can clean the ambulance in a conditioned environment, and they can restock their meds. We're increasing the size of our med room, which is important, where we can stock more meds. So it's going to be it's a state-of-the-art facility that's going to increase the healthcare services that we provide. And it's a huge, huge addition to our community.
Yeah. Mayor Jim Durrett's our guest here on the Big 1400. It is Tuesday with the mayors. We need to take a break now for a Sports Now update with Justin Swallows, brought to you by Fox's Barbecue on the Big 1400.
This Sports Now update is presented by Fox's Barbecue. They're serving slow-smoked premium meats at 521 Heritage Point Drive.
Former University of Tennessee defensive line coach Brady Hoke is headed for the National Football League. After 10 games coaching the Vols defensive front and 2 games as their interim head coach, Hoke, according to a Sporting News report, is expected to be hired as the new D-line coach for the Carolina Panthers. Hoke's predecessor in that role, Eric Washington, was recently promoted as Carolina's defensive coordinator. This move may be viewed by some as a dubious hire after Coach Hoke's UT defensive line ranked as one of the worst in the nation, finishing 126th nationally against the run. Now to the collegiate hardwood, where again we find a couple of Austin Peay Governors honored amongst the Ohio Valley Conference's weekly best. Senior big man Avery Ugba, after averaging a double-double, 16 points and 12 rebounds in games against Eastern Kentucky and Morehead State, was for the 6th time this season named the league's top newcomer. Meanwhile, Bowling Green native Terry Taylor garnered the OVC's Freshman of the Week distinction after averaging 20-plus points per contest last week in conference play. And lastly today, we report that new Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel has hired a defensive coordinator. Late yesterday, the news broke that veteran DC Dean Pease will be coming to Nashville after recently retiring from the same post with the Baltimore Ravens. Pease, like every other assistant brought in by Vrabel thus far, has former ties to the young head mentor, having been his linebackers coach up in New England. At 68 years old, Pease seems well qualified to run Tennessee's defense with over 45 years of experience, including 2 Super Bowl victories, one with New England and one with Baltimore. From the WVWB Sports Desk, this is Sports Now, and I'm Justin Swallows.
Voted the #1 veteran-owned barbecue restaurant in America, Fox's Barbecue is proud to serve the greater Clarksville community. They host the weekly Blues and Barbecue concert every Saturday night from 5 to 7 p.m. Whether you're hungry for chicken, ribs, pulled pork, or brisket, Fox's Barbecue is the right choice. They offer all-you-can-eat selections every Wednesday and Thursday night, as well as catering and delivery. Call them to cater your next event at 931-896-2678. Or better yet, go see them at 521 Heritage Point Drive, just off from Tiny Town Road.
The Big 1400, WVWB. We got another Sports Now update coming your way next hour at 9:20. Brought to you by Culver's of Clarksville, home of the Butter Buns on the Big 1400. But right now, County Mayor Jim Durst, our guest here in the studios. We're still holding at 26 degrees, expecting a high of 40 degrees. So, school system.
Yeah.
Clarksville Montgomery County school system. You got some
Best
new
in the state. Best in the state. Hey, I got to tell you something. February 17th at Austin P, United Way is having a fundraiser at their basketball game, and during halftime of the men's game, Millard House, the director of schools, has foolishly challenged me to a free throw shooting contest. And I found out that Millard actually played college basketball, but I hate to say this, but the house is going down.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, you've been around the
That's right.
block. You know what time it is.
If I can't beat him, I'll cheat him.
The 17th.
17.
Okay, we'll have to remember that. Okay.
Hey, but John, we just our school system continues to grow. We are about halfway through the year, and we're almost up 1,200 students, and that's a lot of kids.
And that's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids, and that equates to new classrooms, new teachers. It equates to new schools, really, is what, because if you look at what's happened the last couple of years in our growth, and I think so much of that, and we've talked about this before, I think so much of that is attributed to our industry growth with Hancock. LG's just now getting up and going. I think they've only hired like 25 people so far, but probably in the next, I'm going to say 2 months, they'll start ramping up. They plan on making washing machines out there in October of this year. So it's let me just say, interrupt you for a second. So this year we approved $15.7 million to add on to 2 elementaries, middle school and Northeast High School. And we actually bid those projects, or the school system bid those about a month ago. The great news is we saved $1 million. The bids came in about 1.2 million under that 15.7 million. And so that's really great news for us going forward, because our next step in their 5-year growth plan is to design a middle school and a high school. And that's about $2.5 million. And our goal, and we increased our wheel tax, but our goal is to pay cash for those designs. And what that cash, by paying cash, what it allows us to do, it saves us $1 million over the life of that debt. And so if we can pay cash for that, that's another $1 million that we're going to save. So we're doing everything we can to help with the growth. And I think the key thing to whatever happens, wherever we build, whether it's additions, whether it's new schools, we have to maintain and improve on the quality education that we're giving our kids today.
So the 5-year plan is, it does include a middle school and a high school.
A middle school and a high school.
Probably in the Arkadelphia area off that road?
More than likely, yeah.
Because you all own that property. Or
yeah,
schools,
yeah.
Own that
and I think that 5-year plan is probably going to have to It may be maybe in year 6 of a 5-year plan, but it's probably going to be looking at elementary school as well.
Yeah, so another complex, another school complex. That's been a successful a mandate, a successful the way you all have done that, just build the school complex.
It has been, and Chuck, I think it's important though as we go forward, and we really need to start looking at 8-10 years from now and start looking today for another piece of property to build another complex on, and look at our growth and where we think that needs to be. But as we do that, I think it's paramount that when we do it, we have the ability, or we have the infrastructure in place, or we have the ability to put the infrastructure in place so we don't create a Rossview Road. We don't create the Clarksville High Richview traffic situations. We have to make sure that we put the transportation infrastructure, have the capabilities to put it in, or it's there.
Yeah, because those are two areas that can be a log jam.
Yeah.
In the Rossview and Clarksville. The reason I wanted the LG situation. Now we know that the government is talking about higher tariffs, and I wanted to ask you, how do you foresee that affecting LG moving forward, or do you see
Well,
the effect?
yes, I do, and I think it could go either way. But I think that really the sad part about that whole thing is the Trade Commission basically recommended adding these tariffs, and then they went to this other group, and we testified in front of both of them, and then the head guy of this group, he recommended above and beyond penalties of what the Trade Commission recommended. And so what that penalty was the imports from Korea. And so, and that's what the president signed off for. And so my response to that is that's not what this administration's been touting. That's not what they've been preaching. When we broke ground out there, Commerce Secretary Ross, he said, this is what our administration is looking for, bringing jobs to America. And so I think what's going to happen is, I think LG obviously is going to be in a position that they want to start producing as quick as they can here to eliminate those tariffs. But in the meantime, all the products that they bring in, they're going to have these big, huge tariffs on them. And so they have to be very, very conscious of not losing their market share.
Right.
And so, but if their prices go up because of these tariffs, then there's a chance of losing that market share. And if they lose that market share, then maybe they don't produce what they want to produce here. And maybe it slows that ramp up of the 600 jobs being there by October this year. You know, it could drag out a couple of years. So I think I think LG's intentions, and I certainly can't speak for them, is to try to ramp up and produce as many washing machines as fast as they can here. So that's a win for us. But if something happens in that market share, they start losing that, then it could be a loss for us.
Every time we talk about market share, we think about Dow, and that was part of their deal.
You know, and that we guy from Reuters did a article. He was in town about a week ago, and I think the article came out yesterday or day before. But we talked about Hemlock, and I think to some degree that gave our community a black eye, and we had to work through that. And I think we did a great job of working through it. We ended up putting Google where they were going to go, and Hemlock was a good company to work with as far as when they said, hey, we're going to close this plant. But it was some very contentious times with them and their attorneys, and but we worked through it. But people started asking, well, what happened to Hemlock? Well, whose fault was it? This, and that. And so it puts this sense of doubt in our community, and so people are worried about, well,
we're snake bit.
Yeah, same thing going to happen to Hankook, or same thing going to happen to LG. Well, Hankook, they're at 1,000 employees right now, so I don't think anything's going to happen there. But LG, it's kind of a wait and see deal.
Yeah, we're going. I haven't been back out in near the Dow, the Hemlock plant, but I see cranes out there. So are they building or is it taken apart or what?
Man, Google don't tell you a lot of what they're doing.
Oh.
but there's a lot of cranes on that site, on Google site. There's a lot more cranes on it than it is on LG site. So I think they're starting the process. They've had a site plan that's been approved. So, yeah, I think Google's ramping up. And LG, they're working 24/7.
And they expect to start production by October of this.
That's what they want to do.
Year?
Yeah.
That would be impressive.
That will. A washing machine will come off that line every 3 minutes.
And that would be 600 employees to start, right?
Yep.
When they start that.
$250 million investment. That first one that comes out, it's going to be a top load, and I'm going to be in the drum. And when it comes off the line, I'm going to bust out like somebody busting out of a cake.
They're going to put you in the dryer, and you're going to be in that spin cycle. You're going to be in that spin cycle. Anyway, Mayor Jim Durr is our guest here on the Big 1400. Let's talk about consolidation. I noticed the article in the paper, and it was complaining about that there's a PAC that is sending out and the phone calls. Can you tell me what's going on?
Yeah, and you know, I don't go to those charter commission meetings. I'm not a member of the PAC. I'm not involved in the process because we were charged with appointing a group of people that would write a charter for our community. And I think one of the key things I heard as this process started was you need to put people on there that want our community to be better and that think that consolidation is good. And so that's kind of when it really changed my mindset on who I was going to appoint to the commission. And I tried to balance it with people that lived outside of the city limits and people that lived inside of the city limits, even though they all live in Montgomery County. And so I think the people that are on that charter commission should be for consolidation. It would make no sense to appoint 15 people that are against it because they're just going to write something that the people aren't going to be in favor of. And so I think what this group is trying to do is they're trying to reach out to the community and see what the community wants. And I think some of the data that's come out in the polls that they've done is that they asked the question, well, if we can write a charter and we can maintain the quality of life that you have as a rural resident of Montgomery County, and if you want services, you have the right to vote to get those services, like 24/7 fire protection, or like water or sewer or whatever that service may be, then you have the right to vote. We can't come and get you and say, okay, we're just going to tax you because we're going to bring those services to you. You have the right to vote, say, hey, I want those services, and I'm willing to pay a little bit more for them. So that gives the people the opportunity. The people have a choice. It's not the government. The people have a choice. And so I think those are some of the questions they're trying to ask, and they want to write a charter where the government can't go out and get Chuck that lives out in rural Montgomery County and raise your property taxes saying, well, we're going to bring fire service to you or we're going to bring this to you, and then they never do it. It goes back to the old annexation theory. When we annexed St. Bethlehem, I was with the city of Clarksville, and we had to put a plan of services together. And really, the people didn't have a choice. The city said, hey, we want this area to become part of the city. Here's our plan of services. This is what we're going to do. And so we're going to bring you into the city. Well, I could sit here today and say that 100% of that plan of services has not happened. And so now what they're proposing with the charter is that, okay, instead of going out and getting all these people against their will, the people have a choice to vote to say, yeah, I want to be part of that, and I want those services. I want the opportunity for those services. And I think that's a huge, huge difference. It's a huge difference. So it'll be interesting to see what the document looks like. You know, people ask me all the time, am I for it or against it? I don't know. I truly, truly don't know because I hadn't seen it. I don't know what it says, but I know just from reading in the paper and hearing about some of the questions they're asking in the poll, I think they're working towards something that may work for our community.
What's the timeline on this?
They have to have the charter. It has to be submitted to the clerk. county clerk, I think it's like August, the first week of August, and then it's placed on the ballot for the November election. And so from August to November, that document will be available for the public to look at. And, you know, they've had one town hall meeting out at Northwest High School. I think they've got one scheduled for out in Fredonia sometime coming up, I think in February, and I think they're going to do some more of those. And so I think they're trying to reach out to the community and see what their thoughts are on it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think that, and the difference, as you said, this time is that the people get a chance to vote as opposed to like when they annex.
I think that'll be written into this new document, the new charter, and I think that's huge. Mm-hmm. And I think the important part of it, I talked about it a minute ago, but I think the important part about it is that there's people that move to our community or that invest, that move from inside the city limits out into the county because they want that lifestyle. They want the 5-acre tract. They're not really worried about some of the services that they were getting in the city. They may want to have some goats and they may want to have some cows and chickens and those type things, and they don't want to be highly regulated. Well, I think we need to maintain that quality of lifestyle for people that want that, and we don't need to tax them for the services that they were getting when they were in the city. So I think if it's the law says you have to have 2 tax districts. So, you know, I think there's a way to satisfy the needs and the wants of the people that live in the rural area, and then the people that live right on the periphery that may want fire protection. They may want their homeowner's insurance to go down. They may want not to pay double for water and sewer from the city, because that's what happens if you live outside the city limits now. Your rate's double what the city is. So, you know, some people are going to want that service and want that savings and will agree to pay a little bit more on their tax rate. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. You know, they've got August, September, October. So they've got 2 months basically after it's submitted to the county clerk. But Jim, it seems it still gets back to educating the people that they need to, you know, look at this, read it, understand it, and you know, I think there ought to be somebody who will answer questions. There ought to be a number that they can call. Is there a number? You know, if they have a question, will I, can I, how does, you know, those type of questions.
I don't know that that's been talked about, but I think that's probably in the works of where people that are truly, truly interested. You're going to have some people that are, regardless of what the document looks like, are going to be opposed to it. I don't care. They're just going to be opposed to it.
No.
Yeah, no. But you're going to have some people that want answers, and I think it's important that you deliver those answers to those people. And how they're going to do that, I don't know yet.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me is that it's a lot more than just no. If you just say no without reading it, you say no without asking questions and looking, how does this apply to my lifestyle?
Right.
That's the important thing to me with consolidation, is that people look at it and read it and understand what they're reading and not just arbitrarily just, you know, put their hand up. Yeah. No, you know, we're not going with this.
Well, if you look on social media, if there's any conversation that comes about it, there's a lot of people that just say absolutely no, no way, and all this. And what are they saying no to? There's nothing to say no to other than the fact that, hey, it's under consideration. And so I don't think you'll ever change their mind.
Yeah, some people you won't. So, speaking of November, the election.
Yeah, mine's in August.
Yours is in August.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. What are 3 or 4 things that you think should be important in this county mayor election?
Well, I think 2 of the things that we talked about earlier is, we didn't talk about one of them as much, but I think obviously our school system. You know, our kids are our future. And I think we have to continue to provide that quality of education that we're providing today and improve on it as technologies improve. I personally don't think we need to go to these mega schools where you have 2,500 elementary schools. When you have two principals, I think the quality of the education means so much. And I think we owe that to our kids that are coming through our system. I think our transportation infrastructure is something we really need to focus on in the future. And I think the Improve Act that the state passed is going to help us on some of these roads that we hear people talk about all the time, like Trenton Road and Wyhan 374. Yeah, and Wyhan 374 been brought all the way around to 149. Those are all part of the Improve Act. So, as we've talked on this show earlier, once they get in the mill, they're gonna have funding in place to complete them, and that's never happened in TDOT's history. You get a project in the mill, and then you might get it to environmental, then it may sit 5 years, and then you got to go back and redo environmental. So that's not going to happen. But I think we also need to put together a transportation plan that looks at a lot of our local routes and what can we do to those. And I think the key to it is not only develop a plan, but also have a funding mechanism in place for it. It's like our school system. As we grow and we have to add these schools, I don't think I think we have to put a strategy together that's going to show how we're going to pay for that. I don't think we wait till it happens and then start scratching our heads and say, oh, no, now we got to come up with $45 million to build a middle school. I think we had to have a plan in place.
That's more proactive than reactive.
It really is, and I think that's what we have to be. And, I'll just throw this at you. The Bible, I mean, it tells you what to do. You don't stick that thing up on the shelf and let dust get on it. You open it and you read it and you go by it each and every day. And that's the same thing with I hate to compare a transportation plan to the Bible, but you don't put a transportation plan up on the shelf. You work it, you read it, you breathe it, you live it, and you figure it out. And that's what we have to do with those type plans. And it's great to sit here and say, oh, wow, we've got this great plan. And look, it's going to do wonderful things for us, and then poof, pop it on the shelf, and we don't do anything with it. So I think we had to create strategies. We had to plan. We had to be proactive as opposed to being reactive.
County Mayor, you have something else?
Well, it's just like our schools. Montgomery County has, I think maybe 270-something million in debt for our schools. And so, we're